Hello, and welcome back to What We Pod in the Shadows, where we are currently discussing Season 2 of What We Do in the Shadows. I'm Raven.
And I'm Alison.
This week we are discussing the episode Collaboration. But before we get into discussing the episode, it would be super great if you haven't already to follow/subscribe to the podcast, depending on what it's called on the platform you're listening to it on, and leave us a comment or a review. It would help us to get the podcast out there to more people, and that would be great for the show.
Share with your friends, push all the buttons, and we will read some of the reviews on the podcast. And check us out on our other podcast, Mojo Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, where we're alternating discussing seasons of the classic Powerpuff Girls and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And right now we're on season 3 of the Powerpuff Girls.
Check that out if you want to hear us talk about some animated shows. We have probably like twice the back catalog of episodes of that than we have of this. So if you want to hear more of us, that's a good place to do that.
Definitely. Okay, so we're discussing episode 8, Collaboration. Laszlo hears the song Come On Eileen while feeding on a jogger in winter at night and says he's been robbed. So I put emphasis on that because I'm like, who's jogging at night in the winter?
Yeah, that guy apparently.
Yes, maybe he deserves to be fed on. He says it was his song he wrote in 1852 called Chum on Irene, about the fishmonger's wife. Nandor's old familiar shows up, Benji Everett, and says Nandor is going to make him a vampire. So he's played by Jack O'Connell. I feel like I've seen that guy before and stuff, but I think he's more kind of like a smaller actor type dude and things.
Yeah.
It's been 40 years and Nandor doesn't remember his name. Benji kept asking to be made a vampire, so Nandor's kind of recalling this. So Nandor hypnotized him and left him at a rest stop in Delaware, where his wife found him. Benji recently started using the Luminosity app, and it's helped him remember his time as a familiar.
And basically, he thinks that Nandor was just testing him to see if he was worthy of being turned. Laszlo also mentions that he originally wrote for He's a Jolly Good Fellow, but it was for I'm a Jolly Good Fellow. And then he also had, shall we say, a much raunchier version of Row Your Boat, which was plagiarized as well. He and Nanja would collaborate on music sometimes. He's like, she's a spectacular lyricist, but when we actually hear the lyrics, that's so great. They go through old music they wrote together, and Colin Robinson says they sound great and tells them they should perform live. Benji checks out Guillermo's room, which used to be his. He asks to go to a familiar mixer with Guillermo and catch up with everyone before becoming a vampire. The familiar gathering used to be about networking, but Guillermo says now it's mostly about bitching. A familiar tries to chat up Guillermo, but Guillermo sees a familiar that he's more familiar with, Celeste, and goes to talk with her. Guillermo used to help her dispose of dead bodies. Her vampire is a 12-year-old who's been 12 for 150 years. Celeste says her vampire finally decided to turn her, and that it hurt a lot. Guillermo says he's happy for her, but crushes his drink cup when he says so.
Also, this return of the Benji guy, like, Guillermo is definitely, like, he keeps looking at the camera and kind of making faces like, Nandor surely can't do this and turn the man.
Yeah.
And then also that kind of the two of them are kind of familiar. Their stories of like being a familiar are familiar because, he lived in the same closet as Guillermo, and Guillermo wants to be turned into a vampire. Which, I guess that's all the familiars, I'm assuming, want to be made into vampires. So Guillermo's kind of freaking out a little bit. Celeste wants to build a vampire community and will make her familiars vampires within 8 months, but they have to be free of any master to become her familiar. So I have Celeste was played by Greta Lee, which I've heard that name before, but I'm just not sure if I've seen her and stuff before. But she was a standout also. Laszlo and Nadia work on writing songs and reveal they usually write songs about current events. Guillermo asks Nandor if they will ever make him a vampire, if he will ever make him a vampire, and Nandor blows him off because he is wound up from Benji constantly bringing it up. So he's already got Benji asking him, and then Guillermo brings it up again, and it just pisses him off. Guillermo reveals he has another offer, and Nandor says he probably should take it. Guillermo says he will, and walks off with a tear falling from his eye. So then they kind of start ranting as Guillermo's packing up. Nandor rants about treating Guillermo like a son and all the stuff he did for him, while Guillermo packs and says he was overlooked and taken for granted.
Guillermo goes to Celeste in her very fancy apartment. Celeste says that her former master, Houston, is on a trip with some other vampires hunting pervs in Florida. There's a bunch of other familiars there already, including from a previous episode, Sam the cat. And they go on about what a good little familiar he is. Though he's a kitty and he just has his paws to make charcuterie boards. Celeste goes over the rules with Guillermo and makes him get Shake Shack for the other familiars. Benji thinks shoes are still $5 and tries to tell Nandor about his grandson being good at golf. He tries to show Nandor pictures on his phone, but his finger is in all of them. Nadja and Laszlo argue about the tempo of their music, and they're like, this is why we haven't collaborated in decades. Colin Robinson walks in on the argument and tells them they should play new music because allegedly fans go nuts for new music instead of the hits. Because Benji is elderly, he is not as good with chores around the house as Guillermo and can't even open and close Nandor's coffin lid. Nandor calls him a big wrinkly baby and decides to go visit Guillermo to persuade him to come back.
Celeste had said Houston was in Florida hunting pervs.
Yes.
I think that's what she said.
Yes.
I think Guillermo asked her, does she still live with her master? And she says no. And then she has, new rules, listen. And then that they don't have to say, yes, master. She kind of really gets on Guillermo about it. And then she's like, it's okay, you're new. Okay, so Nandor goes to visit Guillermo, who has a nice large bedroom now, and struggles with just talking. Guillermo joins the other familiars in interpretive dancing. So he just kind of dismisses Nandor because, I don't know, it's like Nandor couldn't just talk with him as a friend in a way.
Yeah.
So he joins the other ones in dancing. Celeste keeps having them rearrange the furniture for some reason. Colin brings Nandor and Nadja to an open mic. The crowd does not love their performance. The familiars point out to Celeste that she had promised to start making them vamps already. She says she wants to make sure the vibe is good first and brings up having an orgy. So we get to that and I'm like, well, I think I said before that maybe they never bring up having an orgy again, but of course they do. But at least maybe I only had to say it once or twice there instead of 20 times.
Only the one familiar seems that enthusiastic about the idea anyways. Nadja and Laszlo continue to bomb with their new material. Everyone is in robes and Celeste tells them to prepare to orgy when Houston bangs on the door asking why it is locked. Celeste tells everyone to run and that she thought Houston wouldn't be back for a month. Guillermo realizes that Celeste isn't really a vampire. Houston and her clique start bursting in and start eating and attacking the familiars. Nadja and Laszlo are getting booed now. Guillermo escapes the apartment with Sam the cat. Nadja and Laszlo go back to their old material because the crowd hated the new stuff and play a seafaring song from 1792, which turns out to be Kokomo by the Beach Boys. The crowd is calmed and even starts singing along to the familiar tune. Nadja doesn't know how they know the words, though.
Okay, since we were talking about, I'm like, oh, the familiars, they all want to be turned into vampires, but the cat can't be, can it?
I don't know. There could be a vampire cat. There's Peninsula. We could have there's a vampire bunny. We could have a vampire cat.
Maybe. I don't think like the whole blood thing is that similar from humans to cats, but I guess like you'll have vampires that like feed on rats or something if they're like desperate. So
Yeah.
baby.
He just still feeds on like other animals and stuff.
Guillermo flees outside and Nandor catches up with him and says he's been unhappy since Guillermo left. Guillermo asks to be appreciated and for a day off each week and for better snacks. And he gets Nandor to promise to someday make him a vampire. So apparently his previous snacks were just ice chips. Nandor gives him a new pillow and takes Guillermo flying. They drop poor Benji off at a gas station, and as they drive away, he turns into a bat. So confusing.
Yeah. Somebody turned it. We don't know who or when, but somebody did.
I don't know if it's possible. I'm just not sure. I think I said it the couple times we've watched. Like, how did they not, well, Nandor especially, pick up that Celeste wasn't a vampire? Because it seems like they can kind of smell it on people or something, because they're always like, you know, that Guillermo would be delicious.
Yeah.
I know she had fake teeth in, but I'm just not sure why they didn't know. So if Benji was like, one theory could be, you know, that Nandor made him a vampire, but then somehow hypnotized him, and then somehow he didn't realize he was a vampire and then got married, but how do they not know he was a vampire?
Well, I think it must have had to have been during this episode because they showed pictures of him in the 70s 40 years ago and he definitely aged.
Okay, yeah, duh. Okay. Yes, you're correct. Well, I don't know. Yeah, so that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So we have no idea who turned him, basically. It could have been that Nandor did turn him, but he was just so annoyed by him that he didn't want him to remember him, so he just was like, fine, I'll turn you, but I never want to see you again.
I know they're semi-good at hypnotizing humans, and, like, Naja's really good at it, but are they good at hypnotizing each other? I don't know if we've seen that so far. Because you'd think they would just hypnotize Simon or whatever and have him get lost, so...
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they could have, if they turned Benji, hypnotized him to be like, erase his memory. I don't know. That's confusing.
Yeah. When Nandor found Guillermo after he was like running away, he just kind of let the cat go. So I'm kind of just like, what happens to the cat?
I mean, I think the cat is smart, so hopefully he's okay.
Yeah.
That would have been fun if he moved in with them.
Yes. That could have been nice.
Could have showed him every once in a while. He could have made Guillermo snacks.
Yeah.
Charcuteries. So, like, the whole thing was kind of like, I know Laszlo got on the kick with the songs, but, like, kind of Colin tricking them into doing, like, a live performance somewhere so he could feed on their bad singing. He was calling it old-timey music. A lot of it was the way Naja was singing, like... almost like she's trying to put on an opera voice, but badly. And then the lyrics were just, like, horrible.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of fun, but the songs were bad. I don't know why they listened to Colin either, because they know that's, like, usually what he's up to. Yeah. And I guess they were just so into, like, the music and thought the songs were so good that they're like, well, of course people are gonna want to hear us live. I don't know why Nandor doesn't want to turn Guillermo. I mean, it has been 11 years.
Yeah.
But he does enjoy Guillermo taking care of him. So I just think, like, once he's turned, that he would have to find a new familiar, and maybe that's most of it, I feel like.
Like, he's just kind of being selfish and lazy, and he already knows that Guillermo will do basically whatever the fuck he tells him.
Yeah, I mean, he did admit that Guillermo was a good familiar. And then when Guillermo left to join Celeste's group, he kind of whispered, like, "You're being stupid for leaving." And then Guillermo's like, "What did you say?" And he's like, "Nothing." And then also when he went to visit Guillermo at Celeste, he told Celeste to take care of Guillermo.
Yeah.
I don't know if Celeste would really have made a good master, like long term, because I'm not sure if that was just like a course of a week or what it was. Like, she kind of had them doing fun things and she was trying to make sure that they had, good things to eat. I think she wanted to be a good master, like, kind of based on how maybe badly she'd been treated as a familiar, but then she kept just, like, asking for kind of frivolous, stupid things, like, let's put all the furniture outside, I hate it, and then we're gonna put the couch on the side because that's how I'll sleep on it, and
yeah, she's kind of giving me like cult leader vibes.
Yeah, a little bit. But they did kind of talk back because she's like, they're like, well, you told us last week that you were gonna change all of us. And then she's like, well, and then I think she brought the orgy up to like get their mind off of that and change the subject and probably buy herself another week before they ask again.
Yeah.
Which, of course, she couldn't turn them because she wasn't a vampire, but it kind of seems like that's how all the masters act.
Indeed.
They don't want to replace the familiar. But, and she gave Guillermo like a nice big bedroom and everything. I think she had good intentions. I'm not sure why her master kind of like raced to kill everybody. I don't know how she could just tell from what was happening, just bursting in, that like it was a reason to kill everybody.
Yeah. It just seemed like she was like, the vampire seemed like she was like pissed that that Celeste had people over.
I guess so.
It's probably just supposed to be like house sitting or something. Apartment sitting.
But so I think Celeste had taken or tried to take good care of her, so it's like why you would just kill. I'm assuming she killed Celeste. I don't know.
Probably.
Because I think Guillermo was like, they killed everyone. Or he said something like that. Everyone's dead, or so I have the next episode is called episode 9 is Witches. But do we see going forward, is Nandor gonna live up to any of the stuff that he promised? Because, I mean, that's kind of like up to interpretation. Like, I want to be appreciated. I don't know that they give him a new room.
No, I'm pretty sure he's stuck under the stairs the whole damn show.
And then the day off a week, we see that. And then the better snacks. We don't really see Guillermo eating much at home or like his food situation. I would kind of like to see that. Like do they have a fridge? I always wonder about the kitchen because they've kind of the basement's like a dungeon or like a mad scientist
lab.
Yeah, so like with them being vampires, or we never really. I mean, I guess Colin does actually eat food sometimes, but I mean, would with them being vampires, that they might have just like done something else with the kitchen. So like, although doesn't Guillermo have a mini fridge?
He does have a mini fridge, yes.
Okay, I would like to know a little bit more about that type of situation for him, but I don't know if we're shown that. But I'm hoping that they do like show that a little bit. It's like some of these things, like him getting using his day off to do something fun, or I don't know, maybe even Nandor giving him money for food or something. I don't know. Probably not, but
yeah,
it's probably quickly forgotten. It's kind of more like Guillermo knows he is somewhat appreciated, and like maybe that's really all he needed to hear in a way, and that there is a chance that he will be made into a vampire, so it makes him feel better.
Yeah.
I think the vampires forget all the time.
Yes. They seem like they do.
I don't know, maybe they should have drawn up almost like a contract or something and like that was hung up that Nandor could see all the time. I don't know.
Yeah, we definitely should have gotten that in writing and shows. Alright, so I think we are ending our discussion here. Just remember, next week we are talking about the episode Witches, so you might want to watch that first so you don't get spoiled by us. Of course, if you would hit the follow/subscribe buttons and leave us a review or comment, that would be great. We would love to get the pod out there to more people and to reach a wider audience. So remember, until next time, you're dead and out of this world. Goodbye.
Goodbye.